The night Linda invaded my mosquito lab. The scream that shattered the quiet of Pine Hollow Ridge was so piercing it sent owls scattering from the trees and set every dog within a mile barking like mad. I bolted from the woods, my bag of insect traps bouncing on my shoulder, expecting a bear or worse. Instead, when I flicked on the patio lights, there she was, Linda, the self-proclaimed queen of our neighborhood, standing stark naked in my research jacuzzi, swatting at a cloud of mosquitoes so thick it looked like a storm brewing. She was screaming about lawsuits and poison, her arms flailing, her body covered in angry red welts. I stood there, dumbfounded, and said, "Linda, you do know this is a mosquito breeding study, right?" She froze, then leaned over the tub's edge and vomited. It wasn't the first time Linda had caused a mess on my property, but it was definitely the costliest. 3 weeks earlier, I'd returned to my off-grid cabin in Pine Hollow to start a university-funded entomology project. After 6 months of wrangling grants, permits, and logistics, I'd turned an old jacuzzi into a swamp simulator, warm, humid, surrounded by UV lamps and pheromone traps, perfect for studying mosquito behavior in a warming climate. Tiny cameras and heat sensors streamed data to my laptop, tracking how these pests were adapting. It wasn't flashy, but it was critical science. I'd warned the Homeowners Association, HOA, about the study, sending a detailed notice about the equipment, the need for privacy, and the health risks of tampering with insect colonies. Linda, the HOA's unofficial dictator, responded with a curt email, "This is revolting. Cover that ugly tub and fix your woodpile, it's an eyesore." That was it. My cabin, just 40 feet outside HOA jurisdiction, was beyond her reach, but Linda had a knack for meddling where she didn't belong. The night of the scream, I'd been out grabbing dinner with a local game warden, discussing bat migration patterns. My motion sensors pinged, but I chalked it up to deer or raccoons since the Wi-Fi often glitched. I didn't check until Linda's wail cut through the night. From her hiking trail, she must have spotted the jacuzzi's soft blue glow and steaming water, mistaking it for a luxury spa. Ignoring the padlocked gate and warning signs, she broke in, tossed the tarp aside, and slipped into the water with a wine bottle in hand. Within minutes, she'd unleashed 6 mosquito colonies, each carefully separated by nets. By the time I reached her, the insects were ravenous, and Linda was a screaming, swatting mess. As I handed her a towel, she slapped it away, ranting about calling the cops and accusing me of breeding diseases. I pointed out the state permits and university backing. She screamed louder. Then I mentioned the security cameras overhead. That shut her up briefly before she threatened to sue for psychological trauma. The footage was gold. Linda climbing the fence, kicking off her shoes, sipping wine, and snapping selfies under the red UV lamp. When she realized the mosquitoes were biting, she flailed, slipped, and scrambled out, eggs in her hair and bites everywhere. By morning, she'd posted a melodramatic story online, claiming I'd lured her into a biohazard trap. Her filtered photos of the bites sparked a firestorm in the neighborhood chat. "Mutant bugs," one neighbor wrote. "Is this Jurassic Park?" another joked. I posted the full video with a calm explanation, the permits, the science, the warnings Linda ignored. Caption: "Science isn't a spa party, Linda." It went viral, racking up 10,000 shares. Memes exploded Linda mid-scream with the caption, "When you book a spa, but get a science lab." Another showed her wine glass with a mosquito perched on it like a tiny umbrella. The nickname Hot Tub Linda stuck. But the damage was real. 3 weeks of data gone. The mosquito colonies, ruined. I'd need days to rebuild the setup. When I explained this to Linda, she scoffed. "Good. Stop leaving cesspools on public land." It was my land, fully owned. But to Linda, anything that clashed with her aesthetic was a crime. The HOA called an emergency meeting in the community center, usually home to chili cook-offs. Every seat was filled, some curious, some worried, most hoping to see Linda humbled. She arrived in sunglasses and long sleeves, hiding her welts, clutching a folder like a prop. Her speech painted her as a victim of my illegal insect hazard, tossing around terms like biological contamination and community endangerment. A few clapped, others stifled laughs. I connected my laptop to the projector and let the footage speak. The room watched in silence as Linda trespassed, sipped wine, and flailed in the tub. By the end, Laughter rippled through the crowd. I explained the research simply, showed permits, and pointed out the ignored warning signs. This wasn't an accident, I said. This was sabotage. The vote to pause my project was split, delaying my work for an inspection. Linda smirked, thinking she'd won. She didn't stop. That night, my cameras caught her spraying repellent on my sensors, skewing data. I filed a police report. Then a local journalist, Sarah Miller, reached out for an interview titled Backyard Scientist versus HOA Tyranny. I agreed, insisting she highlight the public health benefits of my work. The article was fair, thorough, and quoted university experts. Linda called it a hit job, but the memes kept coming. Linda as Snow White swarmed by bugs. Linda slipping on the deck in a looping gif. Then came the lawsuit. Linda filed claims of emotional distress, biohazard exposure, and defamation, accusing me of unlicensed insect engineering. My lawyer, Ellen, laughed at the absurdity but warned me Linda's money could drag this out. We prepared meticulously permits, videos, timestamps. The courtroom was packed with locals eager for drama. Linda arrived in a neck brace, earning chuckles. Her lawyer painted me as a mad scientist. Ellen countered with facts, showing Linda's trespassing and lies. The judge, barely hiding her skepticism, dismissed most claims, advising Linda to respect boundaries. Linda's final act was desperate. Cameras caught her and a pest control worker slashing my netting and spraying chemicals, ruining another week's data. I called Ellen, the environmental department, and Deputy Cole. The footage was undeniable. The local paper ran a front-page story. HOA leader probed for sabotaging health study. A news station interviewed me, focusing on the science. Linda's claim of unregulated biohacking became a t-shirt slogan. The HOA voted her out, her allies abandoning her. Neighbors started visiting, offering support. A science teacher left tomatoes with a note, "For the Mosquito lab hero." I built an educational trail, Bugs Without Borders, with signs explaining mosquito cycles. The mayor sent a certificate naming my site a Science Heritage Point. My data helped the health department track West Nile, earning me a role in their campaign. One day, a letter arrived with no return address. Inside, 3 words, "You were right." I tucked it away, unsure if it was Linda's. She'd vanished, her house dark, her lawn wild. At the town's first science festival, I spoke about my work, inspiring a girl to pursue entomology. That moment, not the memes or court wins, felt like victory. Linda thought she could control everything. I just wanted to study. She fought for attention. I fought for truth. In the end, her chaos amplified my work, turning a small project into a community asset. As winter settled in, I stood by the rebuilt Jacuzzi, now fortified, watching the mosquitoes hum under new lights. The forest was quiet, the fight over. I'd won not through spite, but by standing firm. What do you think about Linda's actions? Was her persistence a misguided fight for control, or did she have a point about community safety? Share your thoughts in the comments, especially on how far someone should go when they feel wronged. Let's hear your take on justice and conflict in everyday life.